or this is one important meeting the president held. After that, the Libyan Prime Minister, interim Prime Minister, met with the Prime Minister, and after which they signed a number of memorandum of understandings and agreements, and held a press conference sending a regional message highlighting Egypt's regional role. This would be the first meeting we'll be speaking about. Another important meeting was the visit of Bahraini King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, where he met with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and discussed a number of regional issues and developments of mutual concerns. That will be another meeting that we'll be speaking about. Before we delve into our discussion, let's have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Wednesday visiting Iraqi Speaker of Parliament Mohamed al-Halbousi. During the meeting, President Sisi asserted Egypt's keen interest to enhance cooperation with Iraq in all fields, building on the latest mutual visits by senior officials, as well as the trio cooperation mechanism with Jordan. The President also retweeted Egypt's full support to Iraq in all fields to achieve its development goals and restore stability in the country. President Sisi also stressed the significance of the upcoming elections in Iraq and voiced Egypt's rejections for foreign interference in the Iraqi affairs. President Sisi also asked Iraqi Speaker of Parliament to convey his greetings to his Iraqi counterpart and the country's Prime Minister. For his part, the Iraqi Speaker of Parliament praised the visits of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to his country, which strengthened the bilateral relations between the two countries. He also praised Egypt's supportive role to achieve security and stability in Iraq, and said Iraq is looking forward to benefiting from Egyptian expertise in the field of development as well as establishing the state institutions. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli stressed Egypt's firm support to Iraq that was shown in President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's 2 visits to Iraq this year. This came at a meeting held by Prime Minister Madbouli with Iraqi Parliament Speaker Mohamed al-Halbousi. During the meeting, Madbouli underscored Egypt's support to Libya and its war against terrorism, and to Iraqi efforts in development, boosting security and stability. For his part, the Iraqi official expressed his great appreciation to Egypt, hailing its political stances regarding Iraq's issues in different arenas. Lebanon's cabinet approved a policy program that aims to tackle one of the worst financial meltdowns in history. Lebanese new Prime Minister Najib Mikati's government met at the presidential palace to agree the proposal, which will now be sent to Parliament for approval. The draft document included a resumption of negotiations with the International Monetary Fund and restructuring of the banking sector. An official source said the policy program was agreed to without any major changes to the draft. Lebanon is in the 3 years of economic collapse. 3/4 of its population have descended into poverty, and the local currency has lost 90% of its value in the past 2 years. Tunisia and Libya opened their shared border on Friday, 2 months after they were closed as the country's coronavirus caseload soared. The office of Tunisian President Kais Saied said in a statement that Tunisia and Tripoli agreed in a health protocol subject to revision in light of the development in the health system in the two countries. According to the statement, the reopening will be reviewed in case of any violation. Libya closed its land borders and suspended flights between the two countries on July 8th due to an explosion in COVID-19 cases in Tunisia, which responded by closing its own crossings. In Yemen, at least 50 people were killed in clashes between pro-government troops and Houthi rebels in the central province of El Baida. The Houthis rarely report casualty numbers, but the figures were confirmed by other military sources. The Iran-backed rebels had made advances in El Baida province in recent weeks, as they also fight for control for the strategic city of Marib in the north. In February, the Houthis escalated their efforts to seize Marib. The government's lost toehold in the north, and the fighting has killed hundreds on both sides.
Mohamed, welcome back. Before I start with Libya, let me first pay tribute, respect and condolences for the loss of late President Abdelaziz Bouteflika, or the Algerian president, who passed away just yesterday. And returning back to the Libyan visit, or the Libyan important visit by the interim Prime Minister, let me welcome our guest over the phone, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. We're speaking here about an important visit by the Libyan Prime Minister to Egypt, where a number of regional messages were sent by him during the press conference he held with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli. First, your reading to the visit, and then to the messages that were sent.
The most important message that we are on the way to have more stability in Libya. This is not any country, it's not only a brother country, but it is our main neighbor country, which is the longest border with any other country. Second, that we have a big Egyptian community in Libya helping them for their development and establishing projects. And one of very important declaration of the Prime Minister of Libya, that Libya needs 1 million Egyptian workers in addition to what they have now. So we are talking about 1 million jobs to be created immediately. Also, I am keen to hear that our construction companies are going to help Libya to rebuild the country. Stability is very important also, and the good thing, and the same time, it's not that good, that Libya is not a poor country. It is a country with an oil wealth, and it has enough finance to do whatever they want. This is good and bad, because here we have the problem between different parties and different tribes, which is making some of them are keen to have the whole wealth for themselves. Here comes the role of Egypt in order to convince all the Libyan parties that at the end of the day, one Libya, one united Libya, will be better for all the tribes and all the parties. And I hope that we are on the right track in this concern also. Also, we are keen to see Libya free of any foreign forces on its land. We want to make sure that the Libyan army is the only power in the Libyan territory, that any intervention from other countries will be stopped. And this is a very important point. Our president mentioned it very early when he talked in the camp of Mohamed a few months ago, saying that we shall put a red line on our western border. We cannot accept foreign forces in Libya. We cannot accept terrorists coming to Libya in order to practice what we call the illegal crimes, such as illegal migration or money laundering or drug trafficking and terrorism. All these are our enemies. They are the enemies of the whole Arab world. They are the enemies with our alliance with Europe and with many countries. So we are there to stop that. And I think Egypt will give whatever it takes to make sure that Libya is coming back to the Arab fold and to come back to one Libyan country, one Libyan flag.
In fact, President Sisi, while meeting Beiba, has stressed all the meanings you have been speaking about, Ambassador Bayoumi, and rather he spoke about the importance, or urged the Libyan people to go on with their elections. If I may ask you here about the Beiba himself, and the Beiba himself, he himself said that he is sending here from Egypt regional messages or about the regional role Egypt is playing. In this statement itself, it has a message. Who do you think the message is addressed to, and how do you view here the regional role that Egypt has been playing, not only during this stage, but in the past stage and the upcoming one?
The whole message is talking about democracy, that democracy will be the last solution. And election is the main tool for democracy. Whatever comes through free election will be, of course, a good solution for everybody. Even those who win the election or those who will stand like a sort of opposition, they can be a part of the political life in Libya. So we shall give every Libyan individual roles in the political life in Libya, and this will assure that everything is going according to what the mass of Libya needs to see their country. So we are encouraging the elections, which will take place on the 24th of December, inshallah.
Yes, indeed.
And I think this is very good that our president and our prime minister assure that we are supporting this process, because sometimes it needs somebody to witness the process. The Arab League has already given its word that they will be there to watch whatever is going on with the elections. So let us give it a try, and we hope that it will bring at the end a democratic elected government for the whole Libya.
Indeed, but what I meant here was the Beibas exist. I mean, here there was this regional tour. The Beiba did not come to Egypt or in his first trip, regional trip. But when he came to Egypt, he said precisely, my presence in Cairo sends a regional message highlighting Egypt's great role in the region in particular and the entire world in general. So absolutely, because after all, both Libya and Egypt are members of the whole Arab League and the Arab League of Arab States, the League of Arab States, and we have there a big regional organization, 22 countries, where we have deepened in our relations with some smaller groups, because they are ready, they have the political intention to do that, or the political will, such as the free trade area between Egypt, Jordan, Tunisia, and Morocco, yes, such as the new alliance between Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq, which we want to expand it to include Syria and Yemen. All these efforts would give the region, the Arab region, good examples that we can go, whether through the Arab League or much more deeper other alliances, sub-regional alliances, and I think we are doing good there. But really, the troubles in the region around us is annoying us. We cannot continue like that. Right. Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, they are not in very good health. So this is the role of the largest and the biggest country and the strongest country in the area, Egypt, and it's the largest market also. So we shall encourage what the Prime Minister of Libya was saying, and I see his point that the role of Egypt must be coming and exploit quite positively and strongly. So if we succeed in one example like Libya, like we did in Sudan already, I think this will give, will inspire other countries like Syria or Lebanon that Egypt is a good arbitrator, a good big brother country who can help all those countries to come a sort of stable situation. Right. Another very important point was the convening of the 11th session of the Egyptian-Libyan Higher Committee that convened after 12-year hold. And a number of memorandum of understanding and agreements were signed after this or during this session and afterwards. First, how do you view the convening or the reconvening of the 11th session of the Egyptian-Libyan Higher Committee after all these years of holds, and what signals does this give? And the second, the memorandum of understanding and agreements that were signed between Egypt and Libya and the prospects of cooperation.
This is one of our tools to manage our relations with many countries, especially friendly countries and most important countries to our foreign relations, to our economic relations also, the joint committees. Because, of course, we have the presidential and the summit meetings which would come every now and then, every 6 months or 1 year. But the joint committee is very important because you have the representatives of every single ministry of Egypt and the main authorities who are dealing with the main concerns of the two countries and the cooperation between them. And they put every meeting a sort of an agenda or a timetable to what should be done. Tomorrow we shall do that, next month we shall do that. And then we are committed officially that we are going to do whatever we agreed upon in all the near future projects. So it is very important, and I must tell you that I am witnessing such a sort of organization, the joint ministerial meetings, since decades in Egypt. It is a successful story which is managing our relations with many countries. I hope it will do the same success with Libya, especially that I previously said that Libya is very important to us.
The prospects of cooperation? After the signing or the agreements that were, and the memorandum of understandings that were signed?
Yes, of course. Besides the agenda which we are following, there are specific agreements are signed, and we celebrate this every time. So if you sign an agreement, of course you will honor whatever is agreed upon. And as we see on the screen now that many ministers are signing together several agreements in different fields, this will make a sort of more commitment.
Yes, most of the agreements and the memorandum of understandings and agreements that were signed were about the projects or the reconstruction of Libya, particularly in the field of energy, electricity, industry, trade, transport, aviation, sports, education, infrastructure, every field, and security. So how far would that stress the role of Egypt in this upcoming stage in Libya?
This will accelerate the process, of course. Take one project which is connecting the electric net between Egypt with Libya, which is going ahead, then with Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, in order to export electricity to Europe through Morocco and Spain. Of course, you heard about our line of gas going to Lebanon through Jordan and Syria.
Yes.
And we are going to we are connecting our electric net with Arabia Saudi, which will be going up till Baghdad, and then to the south with Sudan, with Congo, with Tanzania, hopefully with Ethiopia also whenever Ethiopia is ready for that. So, of course, you remember that Europe agreed that Egypt will be the center to trade energy in general, especially electricity and gas.
Yes.
This is one huge project which will serve not only Egypt, Libya, but the whole the Arab community, Africa and Europe. Another thing that, of course, the rehabilitation of the civil establishments of Libya will be covered by our construction companies. This will absorb thousands of workers from Egypt. This is very important. If we sign some agreements there, then it means that we are going to do this at that time, and a timetable will be established, of course. Mm-hmm. So add to this, of course, the daily going and coming back of trade between Egypt and Libya. So, but the word there is stability. As long as we can keep stability in Libya, all these efforts will be, of course, coming with all the results which we are seeking.
Right. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much, Your Excellency, for being here with us over the phone and your for input here. We now move on to our next segment, but before we move on, let's watch this quick report and the visit of the Libyan Interim Prime Minister to Egypt. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed the importance that the upcoming Libyan elections would achieve the free will of the Libyan people and called for uniting the Libyan army and strengthening Libyan national institutions. During his meeting with visiting Libya's head of the National Unity Government, Abdel Hamid Dbeiba, President el-Sisi renewed Egypt's stance on respecting Libya's sovereignty and unity and rejecting all forms of foreign interventions in its internal affairs. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Dbeiba headed the 11th session of the Egyptian-Libyan Higher Committee and witnessed the signing of a number of cooperation agreements between the two sides in the fields of agriculture, infrastructure, and civil aviation security. On Tuesday, President el-Sisi received Speaker of the Libyan House of Representatives, Aguila Saleh, and Commander-in-Chief of the Libyan Armed Forces, Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar. During the meeting, President el-Sisi asserted that Egypt would continue its coordinating efforts with all Libyan sides in the coming stage to guarantee the unity and coherence of Libyan national institutions. The head of state stressed that such efforts would lead to the scheduled presidential and parliamentary elections by the end of the year. Such efforts, he added, would also help stopping any foreign interference in the country's internal affairs, which he said only aims to carry out its own agenda at the expense of the Libyan people. The president said Egypt aims to expel all mercenaries and foreign armies from Libya.
Well, welcome back, and that was the Libyan Interim Prime Minister's visit to Egypt. We now move to another important and dear visit by His Majesty Bahrain's King Mohamed bin Isa Al Khalifa presence and visit to Egypt, and his discussions with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi that took part in at the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, and that was on Thursday, where they discussed a number of regional and international issues of mutual concerns, as well as some important developments in some files. Let's watch this report and we'll come back.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met visiting Bahraini King Mohammed bin Isa Al Khalifa on Thursday in the Red Sea city of Sharm el-Sheikh for talks that covered bilateral relations in addition to a number of Arab and regional issues of mutual concern. President el-Sisi expressed Egypt's appreciation to historic ties that bind the two nations and said he was looking forward to enhancing bilateral relations in various domains. The head of state called for intensifying periodical bilateral talks between officials of the two countries and coordinating their consultants concerning consecutive developments in the Middle East region, in addition to consolidating joint Arab and Islamic unity and solidarity and confronting different regional challenges. For his part, King Hamad offered his appreciation for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and hailed the Egyptian-Bahraini close and sincere ties, confirming that his current visit to Egypt comes within the framework of distinguished relations that bind the two brotherly nations which share one future and destiny. He expressed his country's desire to support bilateral ties at all levels. The Bahraini monarch praised Egypt's pivotal and crucial role in the region as a key cornerstone to security and stability of the Middle East, plus its relentless efforts to enhance the joint Arab action at all levels, hailing the promoted ties between the two countries in the political, economic, and investment levels. In this respect, he called for expanding cooperation and deepening ties with Egypt. King Hamad hailed Egypt's efforts to reach a ceasefire between the Palestinians and Israelis and issues an initiative to reconstruct Gaza, and he agreed with President al-Sisi with the importance of intensifying international efforts to resume peace negotiations and settle the Palestinian cause in accordance with international legitimacy. Presidential spokesman Bassam Rodi said the meeting tackled horizons of cooperation between the two countries for the sake of achieving interests of the two nations. He said President Sisi and King Hamad reviewed a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern, including the Middle East peace process, the Libyan crisis, and the situation in Afghanistan, plus the two countries' joint efforts to combat the spread of the coronavirus pandemic.
Welcome back, and to highlight the issue and discuss the dear visit, as I said, we have with us over the phone His Excellency Ambassador Mohamed Orabi, former Foreign Minister, and thank you so much for joining us.
You are most welcome.
Thank you so much. This is a dear visit by Bahrain's King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, where he met with the president and discussed a number of regional issues of mutual concerns, plus Egyptian concerns. The agenda of the talks, the developments in the region, and how important is that, or were that, these discussions at the Red Sea of Sharm el-Sheikh?
Well, I think you will agree with me that, recently we are facing a lot of developments, rapid actually developments, and even deep, and it will have, tremendous effects and impact on the region. So that's why I think this kind of consultation and meetings between the leaders, it is so crucial and important in order to pave the way maybe for more solidarity for the Arab world and the Arab governments and people. And I think Egypt is playing a pivotal role in this regard in order to try to rebuild the Arab consensus over many issues which we are facing now in the region and even in the world. We must admit that we are facing a new international order, and this new international order 100% will have a sort of impact on us, and maybe will, in order to face this kind of impact, I think we have to adopt common strategies and try to have common views in many issues. And that's why Egypt is playing an important role now. You can see the visit of the King of Bahrain as part of, our endeavor in order to enhance this kind of solidarity. And I think Egypt, last week, I think we had many other visits. It will maybe go in the same way, and will adhere with the same strategy.
Indeed. Your Excellency, we're speaking here really about a number of visits that Egypt has witnessed during the past week. Very important visits that Egypt has witnessed. We're speaking about the interim Libyan Prime Minister. We're speaking about the Israeli Prime Minister. We're speaking about the Iraqi Prime Minister. We're speaking about the King of Jordan and the Palestinian President. We're speaking about a number of very, very important visits that preceded this meeting. Definitely the visit of the President himself to Iraq. I mean, the important Arab activities that are carried out by the leadership himself to follow up with the important Arab developments. How do you view this? How do you view the keenness of our leadership on maintaining the role Egypt is playing regionally? And how do you view such important visits carried out during the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, and I think you touched a very important issue because, in my view, the foreign policy, I think we are now trying to adopt a new strategy and to try to implement even this new strategy on the domain of the Egyptian interests in the region. And I think we have three important pillars for this new strategy, which is stability, peace, and development. And you can see that Egypt is trying to pave the way, always, try to tackle all the issues in order to have a great deal of stability in the region and in the domain of our national security. In the meantime, we are trying also to pave the way for lasting peace for many problems, which is a little bit, or let us say we can describe it as a chronic problems in the region. And I think if we achieve peace for all these chronic problems, I think the region will be in another, I would say, stage. And the development, because, the people in the region, they suffer from the lack of development for the last 10 years or more than that. And that's why Egypt is always, having this kind of vision to promote the development, not just in Egypt, but in the whole region. Because, in order to have stability in the region, we should also guarantee 100% of development for the common people.
Please.
Sorry.
It's okay. Please.
Yeah, it's okay. And now I think we are, if you would follow the foreign policy of Egypt for the last, I would say, few years, when President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi starts his presidency, yes, you can see that we are moving from Libya to Greece, to Cyprus, to Lebanon, to Jordan, to Iraq, to Sudan, and I think all this kind of course, and Gaza, and all these kinds, of visits and steps and even efforts to have a lasting peace in all these crises. I think this will prove that Egypt is aiming for stability and peace, and of course, development for the people of the region. So I guess this is a very good strategy from the Egyptian side, and I hope we can have more partners in this strategy in order to enhance it and to implement it for the sake of the welfare of the people of the region.
Right. If I may ask you here, Egypt is working on two axes, the security and stability of the region and on the continent, as it always had been doing. At the same time, the development or the developmental process of both areas, the Middle East and Africa. And in this context, Egypt has been working at the same or at a time on those two files in several axes. I mean here, the security and stability of the eastern side through the meetings that it held with the Palestinian president, the king of Jordan, and also preparing for sending the gas to Lebanon energy. Yes, that is from one side. Also, it is keen on preserving the security of Libya, and hence it has carried out with a number of activities to settle issues in Libya, plus start the process of the reconstruction there. How do you view the very quick and accelerated moves made by Egypt in order to achieve what we aspire for, or what the nations surrounding us aspire for all at once? How do you view Egypt's regional role in this, from this perspective?
Actually, if you want to have effective strategy, you should try to translate, this strategy to deeds, which means that you should have views and plans to be implemented, and also, the political will to implement all these things. So I think Egypt has all these aspects now in our foreign policy under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And any observer for the last, I would say, few years, he can detect that Egypt is adopting a new kind of diplomacy in the region. And of course, we are the center and the focus of this, a new diplomacy. And we, as a stable country, has a sort of influence and leverage even on the region in order to try to follow what we are trying to plan for this region. So I think now we can claim that we have an effective diplomacy, and we can claim also that our views always, followed by, let us say, the international community. And in the meantime, we don't have any private agenda for us to be implemented. Actually, we are seeking for mutual interests, win-win situation, and I think everybody now can recognize that, and we can be proud of this kind of diplomacy, that we are aiming for this kind of win-win situation. We don't have any private agenda, and we won't have any desire to deprive the people from their welfare in any other country.
But always proud of our diplomacy and of our policies. Your Excellency, former Foreign Minister, Ambassador Mohamed Orabi, thank you so much for being with us. Always Egypt has been carrying out with a very integral or a policy of integrity at a time where the integrity is very much lacked in other places. We thank you so much.